Hello, hello, hello! How are you guys doing today? Oh my god, I'm so excited about this video. This is my favorite video of the week to make. Welcome to welcome to Peter's Movie Club. I'm so excited, I can hardly even speak. Welcome to Peter's Movie Club. This is my weekly video where I review the movie that I picked for last week and I announce the movie for next week that we're going to watch all together. So if you are new to Peter's Movie Club, I feel like I say this every week. I'm like, is anybody really new over here at week 24 or something like that? So every week I pick a movie that meant something to me in my past or affected me in some profound way. And it could be something so stupid as just, oh my god, I love the music from this movie, or this movie really was significant and meant something to me. But I pick a movie every week. All the movies are hosted on Tubi. You can watch them other places, T-U-B-I. No, this is not sponsored by Tubi. I just tried to pick a platform that was free. Tubi is a free streaming platform, and it's also available in Mexico, the United States, Canada, and the UK, and other places in the world. So it's more easily accessible than other things. I know a lot of people don't have certain streaming services, so I wanted to pick a streaming service that was mostly free to a lot of people. So, and there were ads on Tubi, but I think last night when I watched Thelma and Louise, it was like 2 hours and 8 minutes, and there was like 2 ads on it. So it's not bad at all, right? So anyway, speaking of Thelma and Louise was last week's movie, and it's interesting because I always kind of like go into the weekend, like I'm going to watch the movie this weekend, and then I wait until the night before the Peter's Movie Club announcement that I watched the movie. So last night I was actually really, really excited to watch Thelma and Louise, and it was like a beautiful night outside. It was a little cooler. I walked like an hour and a half last night, so I was very relaxed. I came back, took a long shower, put my pajamas on, and I was really ready just to like sit outside, and I made a cup of coffee, and I was really excited. First I had like a Diet Dr. Pepper, and then I made a cup of coffee because I just wanted, like, they were drinking coffee throughout the movie, and so I was like, I want a cup of coffee. So anyway, it was interesting watching this movie because I'd kind of forgotten some parts of it, if you wanted the truth. So I cannot speak today. Our movie from last week was Thelma and Louise with Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, one of my favorite movies of life. And the movie, I believe, came out in 1991. Let me see. Yeah, 1991. It was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And for those of you that didn't watch it, this is what the movie is about. Meek housewife Thelma, played by Gina Davis, joins her friend Louise, played by Susan Sarandon, an independent waitress, on a short fishing trip. However, the trip becomes a flight from the law when Louise shoots and kills a man who tries to rape Thelma at a bar. Louise decides to flee to Mexico, and Thelma joins her. On the way, Thelma falls for sexy young thief J.D., played by Brad Pitt, and the sympathetic detective Slocum, played by Harvey Keitel, tries to convince the two women to surrender before their fates are sealed. So I watched this movie, obviously, it was a year after I got out of high school, before I got sober, and honestly, parts of this movie were really, really, I wouldn't say like triggering to the point of making me wanting to drink, but triggering of reminding me of a time when I used to drink very, very heavily, and I would like watch this movie, and I can remember like this one girlfriend of mine, she and I would watch this movie over and over and over again and drink, and it's like they drink a lot in the movie. They drink a lot of Wild Turkey. I was a whiskey drinker, and so there were parts of it that I was kind of like, especially at first, I was kind of like, this is so uncomfortable. But then there were parts throughout the movie, and I said this last week, where I also watched this movie after I got sober, and my sobriety date is December 17th of 1994. And when I got sober, this movie took on a new meaning for me. The movie is really about going through different like turmoils and tragedies and having to find freedom in that to some degree. It's interesting watching this movie in 1991, and the movie is really about the believability of women in, assault charges and left to their own devices. And it's a violent movie. I mean, they take the law into their own hands and things like that. But it's interesting that movie came out in 1991, and there are same conversations that we're having in 2024. I would actually be interested in anybody that watched the movie with me this week. If you had seen the movie before, did it play out for you a little bit differently watching it now because of the cultural climate that we're in? Because I feel like a lot of the things they discussed in this movie are really important and vital to what's going on in our world today. So it was interesting watching this movie last night and like where I was, I don't like the sentiment of the movie of where I was in 1991, at almost 19 years old versus today at 52 years old. It completely was different. I don't think I've seen this movie in quite some time, if you want to know the truth. One of the reasons why I'm not picking Erin Brockovich is because I just watched Erin Brockovich, and so I don't want to pick it again. But Erin Brockovich is another movie of women's empowerment that I love. I will say this, I kind of like, it's interesting to see the transformation of Gina Davis in this movie, which is one of the things that I always loved. And so what the movie is about is that Gina Davis is married to this guy, and he's just nasty to her. And she goes on a 2-day vacation with Thelma, or with Louise, played by Susan Sarandon, who is single, and she's a waitress. And something happened in Texas, and so she doesn't ever want to go back to Texas. And you find out later it was probably because she was sexually assaulted. And so they are on this vacation, and Thelma's like begging her that she never gets to go anywhere, so could they please stop? So they stop at this bar. Thelma is hit on by this guy. She's dancing all over this bar with this guy and things like that. And she's drunk and she's drinking. The guy walks her out to the parking lot, and he tries to assault her. That's the word I have to use for YouTube. And so Louise walks out, and they start walking away, and Gina's crying, and she's like saying no, or Thelma, she's saying no to this guy. And he keeps on, he's like trying to R her, right? And so when they're walking away, Louise says, and the next time a woman's crying like that, that means she's not having any fun. And he says, bitch, he goes, I shoulda effed her. And she goes, what did you say? And he says, suck my dick, or suck my cock, or something like that. And she shoots him, okay? And what's interesting is the conversation that happens afterwards, because between her and Thelma, they're like driving away, they're trying to get away from this, because now they've killed this man, and they don't know what to do, right? And so when they're like driving away, Thelma's like, we should just go to the police. And Louise like, what kind of world do you think that we live in? They're not going to believe it. They've seen you dancing cheek to cheek with him all night long, right? They're not going to believe that he tried to rape you. I guess I am saying the word in the video. But anyway, and so that's kind of the sentiment behind it, is that women are left to these devices, or don't do anything, or keep their mouths shut. Because later in the movie, Thelma says, you know, like, I'm glad you came along, and I'm glad you did it. She says, the only thing I'm sad about it was that it wasn't me. She said, because he was hurting me. And she said he would have done a lot worse. And my life would be a lot worse now because of it. Implying that she would have just not said anything and lived with it and gone back to her husband, and then had to have lived with all this happening to her. And that's actually the reality of a lot of women, you know, in our world today. It's really sad sentiment that we're still there. You know, this was in 1991 and it's 2024, you know. The movie is fantastic though, and there were so many great moments. I didn't want to talk last week about the ending of the movie. You know, I can remember when the movie came out and all of us were like, oh my God, do you think they make it? Do you think they don't make it? No, of course they don't make it. Of course they die. And, you know, it's so interesting, like, looking back on it now that I even have that conversation. And maybe it hits differently at 52 years old. But sadly, I think sadly I understand today something I didn't understand in that movie when I saw it at 19 years old, you know, and that once you have this freedom, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional about this, that once you have that freedom, right, like, to then go back to no freedom and having what was taken from you, it's like you can't go back to that. There's a part in the movie when, you know, Thelma says, something's changed in me and I can't go back to what I was before. And that was the moment when I got sober that, like, I can remember seeing that part. So when they walk out of the gas station and she's just been talking to Harvey Keitel on the phone, and Thelma says that to Louise, she's like, something's changed in me and I can't go back. And I remember after I got sober, I felt so much that way. And the ending of the movie of when they just drive over the Grand Canyon, especially, I think, if you watch it like I did last night so intently, and it's so important because at the beginning of it, well, not at the beginning, but when they come up there, they say, what is it? They're looking over the mountain range, and they go, what is it? And Susan Sarandon says, I think it's the goddamn Grand Canyon. And Thelma says, isn't it beautiful? You know? And they're looking at their future, you know, they're looking at their ending. And so when they drive off the end, and Thelma says, just keep going, you know? Because they know they can't go back. They know that whether they go back, you know, there's a part in there where Susan Sarandon talks about when she's talking to Harvey Keitel on the phone, and you're talking about lethal injection, incarceration, you know, whether they go back, like, for all of them, what they know is whether they go back and they're incarcerated, or whether they go back and they go back to their lives of her being with this man, whatever it is, it's jail, you know? And so anyway, it's a fantastic movie. I always ask myself, is there, like, would I watch this movie again? I'd watch this movie again tonight. I loved it. I cried through it. I laughed through it. It was so fantastic. I love this movie so much. And so when I was looking through Tubi when I was done, it was interesting because I downloaded the soundtrack. I have the tape, and I think I have the CD. But I downloaded the soundtrack last night. Hold on, look. I downloaded, you probably can't see it, but I downloaded the whole soundtrack because the music is so good. And I was thinking about other movies that really had an impact on me that the soundtracks were so good too. And my mind immediately went to the movie that I picked for that this week, and that movie is Rush. with Jennifer Jason. Hold on, let me pull it up. With Jennifer Jason Leigh and what's his name? Patrick. What can't I think of his name? Oh my God, is it Jason Patrick? He's so good looking. Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jason Patrick from Lost Boys. Do you guys remember that? Now, this movie was a movie. When did it come out? This movie came out in 1991 as well. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I saw this movie until after I got sober. I don't think that I did. Maybe I did. I don't remember. But this movie had a significant impact on me when I got sober. When I got sober, I watched a lot of addiction and recovery movies. This is not really a recovery movie. It's really just an addiction movie. I'll just tell you that right away. It's about two DEA officers that have to like go undercover and act like they're drug addicts to like bust this sting, but then they become addicted to drugs. I'll read you the synopsis in a second. The soundtrack is completely by Eric Clapton. It is fantastically done. The soundtrack today, I mean, the songs still come up on my iTunes. I have the soundtrack as well on my phone. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of life. I have not seen this movie in probably 25 years. I just remember that I can see certain scenes. I can see her standing in a phone booth. There are certain scenes that are like really hard to watch and things like that. But when I got sober in 1994, I started watching a lot of movies like Clean and Sober is one of my favorite movies. When a Man Loves a Woman is one of my favorite movies. Today, this came out way later, but 28 Days. I love that movie with Sandra Bullock. I just watched that when we were in Miami. There's so many movies that I love, so many recovery movies that I love that I think are really, really well done. And this movie, it's like Drugstore Cowboy. What's the one with Leonardo DiCaprio about Jim Carroll? Basketball Diaries. Drugstore Cowboy, Basketball Diaries, and this one are all really about addiction. They're really not about, like, the poles of addiction. They really aren't about recovery at all. I don't remember this movie being about recovery. So this week's movie is Rush. It came out in 1991. Undercover cop Jim Raynor, played by Jason Patrick, is a seasoned, so good looking too. What happened to him, I wonder? Is a seasoned veteran. His partner, Kristen Cates, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, is lacking in experience, but he thinks she's tough enough to work his next case with him. A deep cover assignment to bring down the notoriously hard to capture drug lord Gaines, played by Greg Allman. Oh, I forgot Greg Allman was in this, of the Allman Brothers. While their relationship turns romantic during the assignment, I also love the movie. This is where my mind works. Greg Allman, Allman Brothers, Cher, Greg Allman. Okay, if you guys ever saw the movie Mask, which had a lot to do with addiction too, with Cher, I loved that movie. And Eric Stoltz, the movie Mask, it was Eric Stoltz's first movie, was fantastic. If that movie's on Tubi, I will probably pick that movie for one of these times, because that movie Mask, at the very end, when, if you guys remember it, at like the very end of the movie, she's going over the map, and she's putting the things in, and the song Ripple by the Grateful Dead is playing. Oh my God. Anyway, Greg Allman, while their relationship turns romantic during the assignment, they also turn into junkies and will have to battle their own addiction if they want to bring down Gaines once and for all. This is such a great movie. I want to see where is Jason Patrick today? I haven't seen anything about Jason Patrick in 4 years. It's so weird when I look at some of these movies. It says, okay, oh God, he looks good today. He's 58 years old. He's 6 years older than me. Oh my God, he was is he a Cancer? No, he's a Gemini. June 17, 1966. What's the last thing he was in? Anyway. Lost Boys, it has on here. Speed 2, Sleepers, Rush. I mean, I've seen all these movies. My Sister's Keeper. Anyway, that's where he is today. You can tell I don't really care about Jennifer Jason Leigh. That was in, what was that movie? She was trying to be the twin of Bridget Fonda. What was that movie called? God, it's like become like a cliched statement now. Oh my God, I have to look it up. What's that movie called? You guys know what I'm talking about. Single White Female, that's what it's called. Single White Female, where she's like trying to like copy she gets the same haircut as Bridget Fonda and everything. That same bad haircut they both have in that movie. I felt so bad for them. Were they wigs? I hope so. Anyway, so this week's movie is Rush. Trigger warning, it's a lot about addiction, a lot about opioids and heroin. Heroin's a huge part of this movie. So just trigger warning for that if you're going to watch it. This is definitely not like a kid's movie or anything like that, I'll tell you that. And yeah, and it's fantastic. And the soundtrack is unbelievable to me. It's like one of my favorite. Next to, I think, To Kill a Mockingbird soundtrack and which some orchestra did and redid. And then another orchestra redid the soundtrack to Body Heat, which is one of my favorite soundtracks of life too. I think this is probably in the top 3 of those. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.